Just finishing this claim to get Dave back on the road.
Nice. I wonder what Dave's doing.
You do your thing. We've got you covered.
Hey, is the power off on this?
I don't know. Just take it off.
Safety violation, unsafe work conditions.
In the construction trades unions, safety is our highest priority, and we train you to recognize and speak out on unsafe working conditions so that everyone arrives and goes home safely. Learn about careers in construction at georgiaconstructioncareers.com.
Good afternoon and welcome to the 336th episode of the Alfa Insurance Georgia Prep Sports Drive for the GHSA State Title. Today I'm going to make my predictions for the first 2 days of the Basketball State Championships, including today's matchups. We'll preview those. I went over it a little bit on Monday, but took a deeper look, and I'm going to make some predictions. We're also going to talk about some of the latest head coaching moves. Believe it or not, there's still some major changes happening. Saw Cedar Grove last week. Now Westlake has opened up. And then I'm also going to touch on an article that came out this week that I think is very interesting, one of the more in-depth analysis I've seen, and that was the one on the record crowd at MBS and the cut that the teams receive from the championships and just how it compares to previous seasons. I've actually talked to some coaches that have been at different schools, have coached 7A and 6A, made it to the finals in both, and then what their reaction was to it, and then how it's going to move forward. I do think it's a healthy dialogue, though, and it is interesting seeing how some of the schools like Bowdoin in the analysis only brought back about 5,000. Obviously Milton, a much bigger school, they got a bigger cut. But I thought that was a very interesting story and one worth noting. All right, so one of the coaching moves that has happened this offseason that I haven't talked about, and he was all set to come on the show. Unfortunately, he had a last-minute conflict, but he will be hopefully coming on Friday. That is Kevin Whitley. I've actually gotten to know him probably a decade ago, back when he was the head coach at Stockbridge, which that job just opened up also this week. But Kevin Whitley is returning to the high school ranks. So big storyline we've seen is high school coaches like Cedar Grove's John Adams taking college jobs. And yeah, we've seen some college coaches, assistants come back, and also seen them go back and forth in the case of Coach King at Carrollton. But Kevin Whitley is coming from a successful stint at Georgia Southern, back to Northgate. And before Georgia Southern, he was a pivotal part of Kennesaw State. He wasn't there the first year they started a football program, but when they were still a young college program. And so he's bringing a lot of experience to Northgate. And if you've been watching the Vikings the last few years, they're in a tough region with Northside Columbus, with McIntosh, but they're really close, and I think he can lead them into the playoffs on deep runs. Let's go over Coach Whitley's resume real quick. So he's a former Georgia Southern All-American and professional player. He was in his fifth season as the cornerbacks coach for the Georgia Southern Eagles after spending the previous decade as a highly successful high school coach in the Atlanta area. He was promoted to interim head coach for the final 8 games of the 2021 season. This is at Georgia Southern. So big time opportunity for him getting to get some wins as a collegiate head coach. And he was retained on staff by head coach Clay Helton as the assistant head coach. In 2020, Derek Canteen tied for the FBS lead with 6 interceptions to earn freshman All-American and first-team All-Conference honors. In all, the cornerback combined for 122 tackles, 8 interceptions, 20 pass breakups as the Eagles finished first in the country in total interceptions. And that is a tremendous stat right there. That was 2020. In 2021, Whitley's group in the secondary had 5 different starters go down for the season or miss significant time due to the injury. In 2020, Derek Canteen tied for the FBS lead with 6 interceptions to earn Freshman All-America and first-team All-Conference honors. In all, the cornerbacks combined for 122 tackles, 8 interceptions, 20 pass breakups, and the Eagles once again finished first in the country in total interceptions. In 2021, his group had 5. The 2022 defensive backs were led by Canteen again, third-team All-Conference selection, and then safety Anthony Wilson had 101 tackles, 11 interceptions as a team that year. While new to the college coaching scene in 2019, Whitley came to Georgia Southern with a strong coaching resume, as well as familiarity to the Georgia Southern program as a former player. His senior-heavy group of Kendall Vildor, Monquavian Brinson, and Jesse Liprock combined for 22 pass breakups and 3 interceptions. This is the 2019 season, and then this was at Stockbridge. Most recently, he compiled a 99-28 overall record with 5 region titles over 10 years at Stockbridge, 4 of which were in a row from 2014 to 2017. Stockbridge had never won a playoff game prior to his arrival. So you saw what Stockbridge did last year. Coach Whitley was the guy that led them, built the foundation at Stockbridge. Now he's going to a Northgate school that is kind of in that similar position Stockbridge was before they became a annual powerhouse. And so I think that Coach Whitley is a great pick. I'm excited to see him returning. He's one of the big-name head coaches in the state now, making his return. He brings back even more experience. He was already phenomenal. Now he goes to Kennesaw State, goes to Georgia Southern, leads the country with his group in interceptions, and now he's back at the helm. So we're looking forward to getting Coach Whitley back on. I had to go back to our 2017 contact list to track down his number, but it definitely reminded me of all the great conversations I've had with him previously and just what a phenomenal coach he is. So let's look at the opposite direction, and this is Westlake. This is from high school to college, and that's Rico Zachary. The news broke yesterday, and he is now going to be on the staff at East Carolina. So big time changes in the last week with 2 teams that are going to be right up there in the spotlight next season. That's Cedar Grove and then Westlake, and then throw Stockbridge in the mix. It's been a busy week. We've seen some earlier in the offseason. It looked like it was dying down a bit, but it's picked right back up. So this is Rico Zachary's move to East Carolina and the announcement that broke yesterday. His appointment to the Pirates staff ends a 2-year stint as head coach at Westlake High School. He took over for Brian Love, who's now at Wheeler, and he's doing a great job at Wheeler High School. During Coach Zachary's time leading Westlake, his teams posted an 18-12 combined record. They averaged 270.5 yards per game, scored 19.9 per contest, allowed just 14.9, and scored 81 total touchdowns. On top of that, put multiple players double digits into college each of those last 2 seasons. We're excited to have Rico join our program and to be a part of our defensive staff. He's a great leader at the high school and collegiate levels, brings a wealth of football experience. His familiarity with Coach Harrell and our defensive scheme will benefit the players and our staff as we begin to start practice later this month. I know East Carolina had a great recruiting class in the 2024 and definitely loaded up on some in-state guys. Prior to his time at Westlake, Zachary spent 3 years at Kennesaw State. So he was there with Coach Whitley. That's very interesting. So he spent 3 years at Kennesaw State serving as the defensive ends and outside linebackers coach, as well as a special teams coordinator in 2020-2021. While on the Owl staff, his team posted a combined 26-6 record with a pair of FCS playoff appearances where they advanced to the second round both years. In his first year with Kennesaw State in 2019, Zachary and the current ECU defensive coordinator, Blake Harrell. So it looks like Coach Zachary is re-teaming up with Blake Harrell after they were together at Kennesaw State. Zachary went to Westlake for 2 years. Now they're going to be back at it at East Carolina. Teamed up to lead the Owls to the third best defense in the country behind an 11-3 record. Kennesaw State set a school record with 104 tackles for loss, and that ranked number 11 in the country. Defensive end Desmond Johnson Jr. led the squad with 17 tackles for loss in the year, became the fourth player in league history to earn first-team All-Big South honors 4 consecutive years. So that's a big hole for Westlake. So let's see where we stand right now with the head coaches. And once again, we will have Coach Whitley on later this week, but we have Bainbridge still open. Coach Littleton left Bainbridge, team that lost 7-3 to Perry in the quarterfinals, the state champion. That's how close Bainbridge was to winning the state title this season. So Bainbridge is still open. Coach Littleton's going to Tift County, a team that has a lot of history, but my gosh, have they struggled keeping up with the South Georgia powerhouses the last few years. They've been in the basement of that region, but Coach Littleton had an immediate impact at Bainbridge. His defenses have always been lights out. And I think that's going to be the foundation of his Blue Devils' success. All right, Arabia Mountain still open. Julian Washington left that job, and that's another big one because he did a phenomenal job at Arabia Mountain. One of those tenures where they increase their win total every year. They beat Tucker for the first time in over a decade. A great Tucker team at that. And we're really moving to that top tier in DeKalb County. So Arabia Mountain and Bainbridge are both still open. I really like the state both of those programs are in. You got Hancock Central. That position's open. That was Marlar Blunt. Left after the season. Heritage Conyers, Jackson High School, Jordan, Josie, Lafayette. That's Andy Scott, the former Kennesaw Mountain head coach. He had a short stint at Lafayette. Now he left there. Lanier County still open, and then Manchester. It's a big opening. We had Coach Holmes on the show last week with his new job at Pike County. Sorry, Brantley County. Let me double check. Now, where did I say? Hold up, let me get this right. Pike County. I was right the first time. All right, so the Manchester job, state runner-up last year. McDonough, that's a big Henry County job. Rodney Cofield left that position. He was Douglas's longtime head coach. Coached a lot of outstanding players there, I think including Rashad Jones, former Georgia safety that ended up going to the NFL, playing for the Miami Dolphins. And then a couple more are still open. We got Spalding, South Cobb, Stars Mill, Twiggs County, Wayne County, and now Westlake. So I think there's about 14 or 15 and a lot of big ones. Still some across the classifications. So that will probably need to be filled within the next month at the latest. We have seen crazy things happen. Obviously, the COVID year set a new precedent where coaches could come in really late. But I think with those jobs opening just this week, I think we need to give it a little time. They want to be careful with the process, make sure they have all the pieces in order to be able to hit the ground running in the spring. Let's go ahead. This is a good time to take a quick break. Let's shift to basketball on the other side.
Hey, is the power off on this?
I don't know. Just take it off.
Safety violation, unsafe work conditions.
In the construction trades unions, safety is our highest priority, and we train you to recognize and speak out on unsafe working conditions so that everyone arrives and goes home safely. Learn about careers in construction at georgiaconstructioncareers.com.
What you doing?
Hey, just finishing this claim to get Dave back on the road.
Nice. I wonder what Dave's doing.
You do your thing. We've got you covered.
All right, welcome back, guys. So let's talk about today's first two matchups. It's going to be Class A Division II, starting right as the show ends at 1 o'clock, live from the Macon Centerplex. The first game is going to be the Green Forest Christian Girls against Montgomery County. Green Forest is aiming for its first ever state title. Montgomery is aiming for their first since 1972 and fourth all time. So the biggest difference with the Green Forest Christian Girls this season is they have increased their size advantage tremendously. They were 10-13 last season, and now this is how dramatic the improvement has been. Went from 10-13 to now 26-5. They've won 14 straight matchups. And then on that roster, number 25, it's the name to watch today, Mariana Ackle. She is 6'4", only a junior, and obviously defensive presence, and that's something that Green Forest always has an advantage on. They have this ability to just have an international level roster with some of the biggest guys and girls in the state. In 2011, I saw Green Forest for the first time. They had 2 7-footers on their team, and so that is a distinct advantage with the size that will help them obviously in the half court. But look at the pace of Montgomery County. Will they be able to hit the outside shot? And that will be key, because it is going to be really hard to get in the paint and get past those shot blockers. Nonetheless, I am going to go with a sweep for Green Forest in the first two matchups. I just think that they have brought in way too much talent. They have, out of the teams that are in the Class A Division II, they've certainly challenged themselves the most during the season, playing upper classification, playing that really challenging circuit, playing in some big holiday tournaments. I think they're going to be ready to roll. Green Forest is no stranger to Macon, and I also think this is such a pleasure for the fans when you get to actually see the girls go and then the guys. I mean, that is a rare opportunity in the state championship, so I think that's going to be a really fun outing for the Eagles fan base, being able to get there early, support both teams. And man, if the girls take their first ever state title in that opener, that place is going to be off the charts for the back end of that doubleheader with the Green Forest boys. All right, so let's look at them real quick. They are last year they finished 20-8, and they did play Manchester in the playoffs, and so this is important. That's who they're going to play today. But that was a 60-56 win. They just got past Manchester in that matchup. Then they ended up falling to Charlton County, I believe, in the semifinals by 1 point, and that was one of the craziest finishes of last season. I think Charlton County had a desperation last-second three-pointer that they banked in at the buzzer to win by 1 point. So Manchester was the game where that was the first time where they made Green Forest look vulnerable. They kind of showcased that there was a way to beat them. And then Charlton County, just with their sheer toughness, we know how athletic that school is, just off the charts, baseball, football, basketball every year. They were able to steal a win. But this year, Green Forest is way bigger, and they haven't had that moment in the playoffs where they look beatable. They've won 20 straight games. Heading into tip-off, they're familiar with Manchester. They know how well they played them last year. Obviously, completely different teams. But I think they're going to take advantage of their game plan, and I'd expect them to come away with a victory that would be their 5th all-time state title. All right, so let's go real quick to the girls 4A basketball game today. All right, so Baldwin is probably most people's favorite in this matchup for the girls. I don't know anyone that has had another team higher than them in the rankings this season, but Hardaway has been in that number 2, number 3 range. And if you had Hardaway at number 3, you probably had Holy Innocents at number 2, and they of course beat Holy Innocents to advance. So Hardaway's playing incredible. Both these teams have a 24-game win streak going into the matchup. Both these teams most recently lost to, well, not recently, but they both lost to Norcross way back in November before their 24-game win streaks. And then this is going to be the key part of this matchup. All right, so for Baldwin, it is head coach Kizzy Walker's daughter, Janae Walker. There's just something special about being a coach's daughter or coach's son. Going through that process. And Janae Walker, she's got so much size, but you can tell, like, most girls with her size, they're good at rebounding. They play a certain role, but no, she can really do it all. She knows where her teammates are, and she can handle being matched up with another big center or big power forward. That's going to be Kyla Shelton for Hardaway. She is an absolute beast on the boards. She can score in a variety of ways, and she's going to be able to definitely hold her own against Baldwin's size. I think when you watch this 4A game, though, this game is going to be won with second chance points, with transition baskets. Rebounds are going to be so hard to get with just all the athleticism, but it's going to be about getting the rebound and then having that quick awareness to put up a good shot, to find an open teammate afterwards. And we've seen a lot of these girls' games where there's not a distinct difference with the size, and it can really turn into a scrappy matchup with everyone just diving all over the floors. It's the biggest difference in the girls' game and the boys' game. In the boys' game, if you have a 6'8" center or forward, you have a point guard trying to come in and get the ball, he's just going to hold it up like this, and he's going to pass it. When everyone's sort of in that same height range in the girls' game and there's a loose ball, I mean, it is really about effort and just pure will, and then being able to secure it, find your teammates. So I think you're going to see a lot of second chance points. That's going to be where the game's won. And then how are both of these teams going to be able to shoot from outside? Going to be another key, because both can get it done. Both are aggressive getting to the foul line. But I am going to go with Baldwin in this one. Hardaway is searching for their first ever state title. I was very convinced Baldwin was going to win. I went back and looked at the semifinals. Hardaway is definitely the real deal. I don't think that they're going to shy away from the size. It's just Baldwin has a little more depth, and I really just like the effort they play with. When you're holding a team to 5 points in the first round of the playoffs, that's the type of effort it's going to take. Just relentless every possession, nothing given up easily. All right, on the boys' side, this is one of the 4 matchups we talked about this week where it's going to guarantee the first ever state champion. That's North Oconee against Holy Innocents. Pretty dramatic 4 rounds of victories to get to this point. The stat I mentioned on Wednesday was both of these teams have only lost 1 game within Class 4A, and they avenged it in the region tournament. So that shows a lot about how they went up against a team they lost. The stakes are even higher, and they're able to win and actually win big in both those examples. But Holy Innocents, I think they have the advantage in just sheer star power. I mean, if you look at the rosters, North Oconee, they're a great team, but Holy Innocents, I mean, they have the guy. And so it's going to be hard to pick against them. Let's just pull up these stats. And Holy Innocents has some big wins. They beat Alexander earlier this season. They've won 15 straight. But, I mean, Devin Hutchison, only a sophomore, he can go off any given night. And then you got Caleb Wilson, obviously 6'10". People are saying he's going to be the best player in the state next season. Right now it's Ace Bailey. But that combo alone, I just don't see them not having a phenomenal performance. I think North Oconee, it reminds me a little bit about football, where it's like, you know how good North Oconee is as a overall athletic program, but they still have never won a state title. This is going to be their first finals appearance, and I just think that talent on the other side is just going to be the difference. So I think it should be a good one. I've been sold on North Oconee all season, but I'm going with Holy Innocents. So my picks, day 1, Green Forest sweep, Baldwin, and Holy Innocents. So you have it right there. All right, on Thursday with Class 2A, because I will not be here on Thursday, I'll be back on Friday. Go ahead and make my Thursday pick. So in the opener, you're going to have 2-time defending state champion Mount Perrin going up against Josie, and then 2-time defending state champ Westside Augusta going up against Toombs County. When I looked at these matchups last week, I said, oh, these are going to be blowouts. Going with Mount Perrin, going with Westside Augusta. However, there are some vulnerabilities, I think, with both teams. I'm going to go with Josie's great out of Augusta. I'm going with the Mount Perrin girls, but I'm going with Toombs County to upset Westside Augusta in a low-scoring game. Westside Augusta made just 1 3-pointer in the last round, and that's just not going to cut it. And I know they're well-balanced, got all the right pieces, but Macon isn't the easiest place to shoot. It's got different configurations. If they have a game where they aren't connected on that deep ball, they're going to be in a lot of trouble. And Toombs County has some go-to scorers that they're going to smell blood in the water, and they're going to try to get some quick points off. I think out of both those matchups, I think Toombs County is more likely to upset. So we'll see about that. I'll probably be completely wrong, but I think it's the 3-point shooting from Westside Augusta. That is not good enough. Just one made 3-pointer. Got to be more dimensional than that. All right, in Class 5A, the first matchup, man, this is going to be tough. Midtown and Jackson, Atlanta, both are searching for their first ever state title. I'm going to go with Maynard Jackson. I think these have more size. They beat them previously in a matchup. I think Midtown's just a couple years away. And then the Kell Eagles Landing one. Man, I've been going back and forth on this one. So the stat in this one, they're saying Eagles Landing has not lost since John McQueen joined the team. They obviously lost to Kell last year. Kell's won 26 straight matchups. You know I want to pick an upset. I'm going to go with Kel, though. Yeah, they've been... their playoff run, beating Dalton 90-41. Haven't really played a close game in quite some time, probably since last year's state championship, or early in the season, the month of November. But I'll go with Kel in that one. So really the only upset pick that I'm putting on alert is Toombs County, and we'll see about that. So those are the first 2 days. I'll make my Friday picks on Friday's show, and we'll still have one more day after that. 4 days of action. All right, but let's go to our next story real quick, and this is on the payback, or I guess compensation, that these teams made at this year's football state championships. So it's very interesting. Once again, I applaud the article, but some questions that still need to be asked. One, the comparison just on days of the week. It's a big factor. You had the record crowd, but they moved these games to Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. That's different than when it's at Georgia State, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It's a big deal. Also, before the state championships returned to Mercedes-Benz this year, they put in the budget in this breakdown that it includes having to pay for the girls' flag football games. Well, wait a minute. When Georgia high school football was playing at state championships at Georgia State, the girls were playing at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So who was paying for it back then? Get my point? All right, so here's what the article says. Football teams playing in the state championship games earned 54% less on average despite the record attendance in the return to the more expensive Mercedes-Benz Stadium in December. That's what the GHSA records produced. The 16 finalist average disbursement was $9,795 compared to $21,068 in 2022. And remember, this was record attendance. Obviously, it's more expensive, but it's a significant chunk. All right. Class 7A schools, Walton and Milton, earned just more than $14,100 of that $9,000 average. The lowest payout was Class A Prince Avenue Christians, $5,607. So here's how they break this down. From rent and facility fees, MBS got $5,800 from the event's $983,000 revenue. In 2022, instead of the $582,000, it was $157,000 of the $663,000 revenue. Attendance for the 3 days topped 50,000. The paid count was 49,126, or 50% higher than the 2022 paid total of 32,766. So that is, a 50% increase in attendance. The previous record for paid attendance was 2016 at the Georgia Dome, 47,922. So this article did a great job of showing what the GHSA said and then what the different coaches said. And what I really liked about it is a lot of these coaches had been in previous state titles, so they were able to look at the numbers from both and then put it into perspective, because there is no doubt. I mean, Mercedes-Benz Stadium is a very exciting place to play. I think the finals should be there, but it is going to be more expensive, and I think this has opened the conversation on how to reward the teams more for making it to this game. And I think year one being a success, I think that is the starting point. Getting it back this past season, record-breaking attendance. Now the word's out. Let's raise it even higher next year. All right, clearly the cost of MBS is going to be more. This is from Robin Hines, but what can't be lost on anyone is the experience that's provided to the student athletes and the schools and communities to participate in the premier venue in the country. I've been to a lot of football games. I'm telling you, even though I was disappointed Walton lost to Milton, there was something about showing up, seeing Luke Nickel up there, Hecklinski, and it was so exciting and memorable. And I don't think it would have been that memorable if it was somewhere else. I mean, just seeing the visuals and walking around the concourse and watching it, it was an unbelievable environment. So I completely agree with that. As always, we've already had several meetings to review the process. We're looking at ways to cut costs and increase what goes back to the schools. So this will definitely be something we'll revisit in the future and see how successful they were in that. So Bowden's head coach, who he was in back-to-back state titles, they won them both. He said, so his team won the Class A Division II titles in 2023 and 22. He said his school made 4 times as much in the semifinals played on their own home field than the $5,872 that he got from the championship game. So that is a pretty eye-opening admission right there. And then he said, this is probably the sentiment of every coach that's played the last few years, and it's that all of us would rather play at a home venue because we all lose money. Yeah, it's exciting. It's awesome to play in that venue. The kids love it. The fans love it. But when you get back and have to pay your own officials for the year and the reconditioning you have to do, and buy 10 new helmets and 2 new sets of shoulder pads, all the expenses, you would really like to find a way to make a bigger paycheck when you make it for the state championship. Yeah, that's a lot of travel too. I mean, imagine a school like Camden County, if they would have made it to the finals, went on the road every round in the playoffs, drove the equivalent of Georgia to San Francisco. That takes a lot of money. And then if they didn't get a big check, that might literally put the program in a hole. And they would have to find other ways to fundraising. Anyone that's ever played a high school sport knows what that's all about. Whether it's your Raider cards, the Walton Band, they sell fruit every year. I think they sell cookie trays one other year. So fundraising is a part of the game, but you also want to be rewarded as much as possible for playing in the biggest game, in the biggest state, in the biggest venue. All right, Swainsboro's Scott Roberts, another coach whose school played in 2022 and 2023. He saw the pros and cons to move to Mercedes-Benz. At the Benz, $6,202. Then at Georgia State, the previous year, $13,420. Unfortunately for them, they lost both matchups, but still, he talks about how great the experience was. I enjoyed the atmosphere at both stadiums. We had good weather the night we played at Georgia State. Point out that the rain might have dampened the Georgia State experience, whereas Mercedes-Benz is a dome stadium. Obviously, the money is nice, but if you have a chance to play in that game, I really don't care where it is. Of course, I understand there's a big difference weather-wise if you are a spectator. Roberts and Pierce County coach Ryan Herring, whose team won the 2A title, hoped the Falcons and GHSA would negotiate a better deal. We loved playing there, Herring said. We just didn't get a good payout as much as we expected. Milton head coach, and once again, you find this on the AJC. It's a great article. It really took a lot of time for them to get all the perspectives before putting this out, and I commend them for that. Milton coach Ben Reeves, whose team defeated Walton for the 7A championship, defended the choice of Mercedes-Benz. He's been on Milton's staff for the state finals in 2018, 2021, and 2023. Milton got 14,135 from the 2023 finals. He says, after playing 2 in the Benz and 1 at Georgia State, talking about finals experiences, I would call playing at the Benz priceless. Reeve said, it's a shame the schools don't get more of a cut, especially with the record-breaking attendance, but playing inside the Benz enhances everything about the experience, in my opinion, and should continue regardless of ticket money allocation. All right, we're almost done here. GHSA bylaws call for the GHSA to receive 12% of total income before expenses. So the GHSA actually got more this year, making $118,000 from $78,000 in 2022. The school's payouts, also dictated by GHSA bylaws, are a percentage of income after expenses. It ranges from 17.5% in Class 7A to 8% in Class A. Inflation and the implementation of video review also added some expenses. And then it says MBS compared to Georgia State, they have a $3 per ticket charge compared to the $1 per ticket charge. So I think this is going to open up a conversation. One, the deal, the payouts, but then also some of these are baked into the cake with the GHSA in terms of the bylaws and what classification gets what. We have a new reclassification cycle happening. It'll be the same amount of games, but I do think just over the years you see issues like this come up. You hear feedback from the coaches, and they have meetings. And it seems to be an issue that some of the spokespersons for various regions, classifications, when the GHSA holds these meetings, they're going to be very outspoken about this, and they're going to make sure it's debated and then voted on. And that is always something. That's why we have this new format with a Class A to 3A, because the private schools had their own issues and the public schools had their own issues. They heard them out and then voted on it. So I think this is going to be a part of it. I mean, it is rough for the teams because they're the reason that it was record-setting attendance. They put in all the work, so we'll see. But thought that was an interesting article and definitely something worth reading if you haven't, talking about, and then considering if you're a fan of Georgia high school football, because I 100% think it's the best. I think the fans are the best, the talent, the coaches, and I just think it needs to reflect that. And playing in the state championship, no matter how we get to that point, both teams, they need to be able to walk away from that matchup with a lot of support for their programs going back into it, because that's what's helping elevate the entire state. Teams are putting in that much work to get to the state finals. All right, so let's look at a couple more matchups. Oh yeah, I'm going to go over what matchups do I think are going to be the best this week. All right, so on the girls' side, I think Marist and North Forsyth, it might not be the most dazzling, but I think it's going to be the closest. North Forsyth, this is an opportunity for them. Everyone has talked about Marist and their defense all season long. I think they're the best, but North Forsyth, they are rock solid in that department. And are they going to be able to beat Marist in a pure defensive game? Because I think if they try to run it up, Marist, their defense is so good that I don't know if they're going to be able to match them in points. Marist will be able to lock down the stretch, use their full court press, wisely eat up the clock. So I think North Forsyth take advantage of the possessions, and you got to find a way to limit Kate Harpering. But I think that matchup's outstanding, and both those teams are confident they can win that matchup. Marist isn't looking at North Forsyth and being scared. They just beat River Ridge. And then North Forsyth, they're going into this matchup They don't have to play River Ridge, and they're undefeated. So I think that's what makes that matchup the best. Both those teams really believe they can win, and they have very good reasons to believe they can take it. The other matchup, Wesleyan and Hebron Christian. So when these teams played last year, I did not realize that Chit Chat Robinson for Wesleyan went off for 31 points. Chit Chat. What's her last name? Chit Chat Robinson? Yeah, I think that's it. And that's Wesleyan's big time guard scoring machine. So she scored 31 points, and Hebron still won the matchup. This time around, I watched Hebron play. They have a 49-point average margin of victory. I just think they're too deep. They have 4 players on their team that have scored 1,000 career points. They've got a coach that's searching for a 16th all-time state title. Think this is the most talented matchup. Just very well-coached teams. Both of these teams, I think they probably have the most girls on the floor at any given time that can knock down a three-point shot. Most of these other teams, they got great guards, great ability to dish the ball out, big-time scorers in the paint. These are teams where they can all get involved, and if you leave any of them open, they will make you pay. That's why Hebron was putting up 93 points, even with a 6-minute fourth quarter. And the other thing in that Wesleyan-Hebron matchup, it's going to take a really hard effort because I think Hebron has a difficult choice to make. Are they going to try to full court press Wesleyan for the entire game? And if they do that, no offense, when they did that in the last round, that was a young team with one senior. You try to press a team with as much experience and talent as Westlake, they might beat that press and make you pay. So is Hebron going to try to use that full court press against Wesleyan, or will that backfire on them? That is the big question. On the boys' side, you got to go with 7A, Grayson McEachern. Grayson has had so many talented teams. They became more than a football school, I think 5 seasons ago. They've been knocking on the door. The hardest thing to do is actually win that final game. And they're going to have to do it against the best player in the state right now. A guy that no matter if it's a 50-39 game or an 80-70 game for McEachern, he's going off for 30 points. And that final tally depends on, I guess, what his surrounding cast does. But I think Ace Bailey's going to absolutely go off in this matchup. And Grayson's going to have to stick together, get the ball to Jakari Harris, hit those outside shots, and really just have a clutch performance. I think if Grayson wins this game, though, it is going to mean a lot to all these guys because with McEachern, the big storyline, it's going to be Ace Bailey, how phenomenal he is, and he deserves all the recognition for the spotlight he's brought to the state this season and just the freakish plays he's been able to do, the effort game in and game out, putting his team on his back throughout the playoff run. But I think Grayson, they've got a very solid team. I think it's going to mean a lot if this group can come together and win all the great teams they've played this season. The fact that they opened the season number 1, they've had the target on their backs. They've never let down the entire season. They've been putting in the work, and I think it's a very unselfish team, and it would mean quite a lot. And the other opportunity, obviously they don't want to look this far ahead, but we could see Grayson sweep for the first time and then end up playing in a national tournament for a national championship later on this week. How cool would that be if Grayson's able to sweep this weekend and then the boys and girls both go out there for a national championship opportunity? The Grayson girls are ranked number 6 right now in the country in the national poll. And if Grayson can close out, I think they might get into that top 10. So that is another opportunity. Obviously, they want to win first. Both would be able to have their first ever state titles, and then just with all the talent they have for them to go on, should be incredible. And as good as Ace Bailey is, I think Danielle Carnegie for the Grayson girls, she has previously won a state title at Rockdale County, or at least competed in a state championship game, and she is probably the best player on the girls' side. She's just absolutely dominant. It's a big opportunity for her as she heads to the college level to get that state championship, prove she can get it done at the highest level, and then be a real superstar heading into her college career. But that's all we have for today. Check out today's championship coverage at scoreatl.com. I'll have recaps of both Class A Division II games as well as Class 4A. And then Najee will be back tomorrow for Keeping It Real with Najee Wilkins. See you guys then.
What you doing?
Hey, just finishing this claim to get Dave back on the road.
Nice. I wonder what Dave's doing.
You do your thing. We've got you covered.
Dang, where you get this car?
You need to join the union.
The union?
Absolutely. You can get 10 of these.
Union construction workers earn the highest wages with the best benefits and the most protection in the construction industry. Find your career in construction. Go to GeorgiaConstructionCareers.com and start your future today.